Ji-yu was very confused. 2 days before the college entrance examination, he was holding Red Bull with a fountain pen in his left hand and working hard all night, but he came to this big house in the next second. He felt that he had probably passed through, or his soul was wearing. Because his skin turned white and his abdominal muscles disappeared, he obviously changed his body, plus the half bottle of sleeping pills that was open next to him when he woke up. He guessed that the original owner committed suicide, and then he walked over. After all, living in the era of information explosion, he was not surprised, just a little confused. This dazed emotion was magnified countless times when he saw the sleeping baby in the nursery. The original owner of his body was already married. Have a kid? What about the child's mother? The baby didn't wake up. Ji-yu tiptoed to look for the bathroom. Looking at the familiar face in the mirror, Ji-yu couldn't recover. This face is exactly the same as his original face, except that it is too pale and full of sickness, as if it will fall when the wind blows. He also wears a two-fingered metal ring around his neck. I don't know what it is made of. It doesn't feel at all when it sticks to the neck. Ji-yu tried to untie it, but failed to untie it, so she had to put it aside first. He slowed down and walked the whole house. Except for the baby's room, there are only traces of someone living in the bathroom and one bedroom. Everything in the other rooms is covered with white cloth, and the floor is grey. The shoes in the shoe cabinet are all men's, there is nothing on the dressing table, and there is no long hair on the comb in the bathroom. There is no trace of female life. Therefore, it looks like he and the baby live in such a big villa. Ji-yu suppressed the doubts in his heart and tried to find the original owner's mobile phone, but the mobile phone was not found, but found the original owner's student card. Longchang First High School Senior 3 Class. Ji-yu. The same name as him, the same class as him, but the school name is different. Wait, the original owner has a child in the 3rd year of high school? Or is it that the child is not the owner, maybe his younger brother? So the question is again, what about the original owner's parents? Wouldn't he let someone who is still in school take the child? Just when his thoughts were running around like a wild horse, Ji-yu found the original owner's phone. Unlock the fingerprint and open the contact. There is no one in it. Looking at the call history, there is only one call made last night, but it is a string of numbers, and I don't know who it is calling. Ji-yu. He is not only confused now, but also worried. He doesn't know anything. Doesn't he have to dress up if he just touches a person? Buzz. At this moment, the phone shook. Ji-yu stared at the phone for a long time, and finally picked it up, tentatively saying, "Hello. Hey, what are you doing? Didn't you say that I will see you at the gate? The sun is so big outside, I'm going to die. Come out. Hurry. Hurry. We'll be late if you don't come again. Come out faster." Ji-yu was buzzed by the words like a bead of words, and his emotions became anxious. He hurried to the window and took a look, but he didn't see anyone downstairs. I didn't see anyone. The gate. The gate. Ji-yu was taken aback for a moment, and subconsciously said, "Which gate?" After finishing speaking, he felt overwhelmed, and now I have to wear it for help. However, the person on the other end of the phone obviously didn't think too much, and dropped the sentence "I'm here to find you" and hung up. Looking at the hung-up phone, Ji-yu suddenly panicked. Who is this person? What is his relationship with the original owner? He is coming soon, what should I call him? I would have pretended to be sick if I knew it. Just when he wanted to return a call to tell the other party that he was sick, the door was knocked. Ji-yu dropped his hand and let out a long breath as if giving up. Okay, it's useless to hide when things are here. He licked his lips, walked to the door and opened the door. Before he could see what the other person looked like, the magic sound rang in his ears, and Ji-yu suddenly felt his brain buzzing again. Where's your school bag? What about your student ID? Go to school without getting anything. What's the matter with your face, so white? I said you should go for more walks, basking in the sun, like a vampire. The other party squeezed away Jiyu, blocking the door, and walked inside in a familiar way. What about the little universe? I look at him. What little universe? I'm still a Glacier Athena too. Jiyu took a deep breath. Although the other party spoke abruptly, it was not difficult to see that this person was a good friend of the original owner. He thought for a while and reached out and pointed to the baby room. The visitor came upstairs familiarly, and Jiyu followed behind him. He slept so soundly, so cute. The person's expression suddenly became very soft, and his voice dropped by 8 degrees. Jiyu silently glanced at the student card on his chest. Senior 3 class Xia Yuxing. What did you call him? Old thanks? Rain Star? Brother Star? Xia Yuxing turned to look at Jiyu. Where is his lunch? Jiyu was taken aback. I. Xia Yuxing sighed and looked at him with an expression of hatred for iron and steel. It is a pitiful little universe for our little universe. Jiyu blinked. This child really belongs to the original owner. What the is that child? Xia Yuxing immediately solved Jiyu's confusion. You must not provoke him this time when you return to school. We and him are not people in the same world. As he said, Xia Yuxing found milk powder in a bottle by himself, and skillfully soaked the milk powder. He soaked and counted. Luo Jiyu, the twisted melon is not sweet, and their family will be Amitabha without killing you and Xiao Universe. You can live with Xiao Universe. Don't be unwilling to complain. The thing is that you did not do the right thing. If someone saves you, you still like that, even with the ruined marriage contract, it's fine without asking you to settle the bill and return it to your house. Learn how to take care of your children. The little universe is your own and innocent. Jiyu was as quiet as a chicken, but a storm blew in his mind. These words were too informative, and he couldn't bear it. So, did he wear a scumbag? Not only did he fall in love and give birth to a child, he also avenged his grudge, ruined the other party's marriage contract, and left the white wolf empty glove and exchanged a sperm for his son and house. Jiyu, what a peerless scumbag! Is he still too late to pretend to have amnesia? Did you hear what I said? Xia Yuxing asked again. Jiyu nodded, yet. Xia Yuxing glanced at him, so perfunctory, I know you still think of him. Jiyu, I'm not that I didn't. Xia Yuxing raised his eyebrows, hey. Jiyu bit his scalp and said, I will definitely not provoke her, study hard, and nurture the small universe. It's pretty much the same. Xia Yuxing was satisfied. After the milk was soaked, Xia Yuxing put the bottle next to the baby's head. Jiyu had never raised a child, and he didn't know how many babies would eat on his own. Seeing Xia Yuxing's proficiency, he trusted each other inexplicably, so he didn't think too much. He took his student ID and school bag and followed Xia Yuxing to school. Soldiers came to cover up the water and earth. Jiyu thought quite open. He is not even afraid of the college entrance examination, and there is nothing to be afraid of when going out to meet people, and he is not doing those things. If someone says him, he should not be able to hear it. Along the way, Jiyu saw many people with metal collars around their necks. Some people didn't wear them on their necks, but they wore bracelets of the same material on their hands. Jiyu thought to himself, maybe this thing is the ID card of this world? Can you know all about your background? He didn't know, and he didn't dare to ask. The question is that it was found that it was not an original product. Maybe the original owner is not very talkative, so Jiyu was silent all the way, and Xia Yuxing didn't notice anything wrong. When he arrived at school, he patted him on the shoulder and said, if Jiao makes things difficult for you, you can bear it. It's true that you are wrong. In short, don't think about making trouble to Jiao. He won't help you, but will only make people laugh at you. I will come to you at noon. Have a meal together. Poor brothers in the world. Jiyu nodded and parted ways with Xia Yuxing downstairs. The girl who was bullied by the original owner was He Jiao. Ji sighed and said to his heart that this was really a sin. Shouldn't it be the third year of high school that he should study hard every day to prepare for the exam? Only after standing downstairs for a while, he experienced enough with the contemptuous glances of people passing by. Ji looked back and got a disdainful humph. Okay, it seems that the whole school knows what the original owner did. But this school is really tolerant, and it didn't even let the original owner drop out. Thinking about this, Ji stepped on the bell and entered the classroom. As soon as he entered, the classroom was silent for a moment, and the people inside gave him a very unified look, and then turned away from him. Ji. He walked silently to the empty space in the corner and sat down. At the first sight of these classmates, what he thought in his mind was not that he was excluded, but that the male classmates in the class looked good, so weak. The faces of all the stars are all beautiful and outstanding, but why are they so white and slender? There are even a few boys looking in the mirror to trace their eyebrows. Sorry, he shouldn't judge people by appearance, but he really couldn't help it. The teacher-like person said as soon as he entered the door, "He Jiao, help me send out all the papers." Ji opened his eyes wide, and was forcibly swallowed back into his throat with a sound. He raised his head to look at the girl who responded, and his heart was swept across the screen. The victim and the victim are in the same class. If something like that happened, the school didn't let the original owner drop out, and let him stay in the same class with the victim, bowing his head every day without looking up. Is it trying to force her to death? A paper slammed onto Ji's face. He looked back at He Jiao, who had handed out the test paper, and unexpectedly got a pair of disdainful eyes. Ji was not at all angry about being slapped in the face by the test paper, but sighed that this girl is really strong and it's not easy. Thank you. He held the test paper politely. He Jiao twisted her eyebrows and stared, showing an expression of disbelief, and then rolled her eyes again. Your brain is broken, right? After that, she turned around and left. Ji. No, why did you curse? But when he thought about what the original owner had done, he felt that it was quite worthy of scolding. So he lowered his head, opened the test paper, and saw the math problem on it. Mathematics is his strong point, but it is obviously not the strong point of the original owner, because the red bars on the test paper are drawn from to the end, and none of them are correct. Sneer. Someone chuckles next to him. Ji looked up. The man laughed sarcastically and his eyes were full of contempt. Your grades are as yours, and you don't look at what you are, but you want to enter his house and dream. I feel sick when I'm in the same class with you. Then he moved his desk aside. Ji calmly said, do we have hatred? The man lifted his chin, his tone was casual and disdainful. No, but I just discussed you. Ji. Where did the pheasant play for himself? Who hasn't been raised up with good food and drink at home? It was very depressing to suddenly dress as a scumbag, but there are still people who are going to slap the fire, and he didn't specially wear it to redeem his sins. How many did you take? He asked. The actor waving the test paper triumphantly, 96. When is the next exam? Next Monday. Ji nodded, okay, you wait. Waiting for? Waiting to kneel down and call my father. On the exam, he hasn't been afraid of anyone yet. The author has something to say. Originally a newcomer, I really love ABO, so I can't help but want to produce a grain of food. Celebrate the opening of the pit, send a red envelope 50 before leaving a message. P.S. This article is updated every day, and some situations will be explained in the copy and the scarf. The original pre-collection has been released for 2 years, and there is no idea at all. You can collect it if you don't like it, sorry. Gu has been a schoolmaster since he was a child, and has always been a child of someone else's family. He was not troubled by the district exams. He stopped arguing with the man, turned his head and thought of his own business. I have worn everything, so I have to think about what to do next. I like to be a dad when I come here. I can't get away with raising a child, so where does the money for raising a child come from? When he got back, he planned to dig through the boxes and close the cabinets to get a clear idea of the original owner's family. Then comes what happened to the original owner. He Jiao is the person who is sorry for the original owner. If he can bear it, he can bear it. He Zhou sounds like her brother or relative, so avoid. Xia Yuxing is a good friend of the original owner. You can build friendship. These are the current networks of relationships, and others have yet to be discovered. After thinking about it, Ji Yu suddenly blessed his soul again, and yelled system twice in his head, and then let go of his mind without hearing a response. It seemed that he didn't need to complete any tasks, just simply pierced the soul. It's just the beginning of the third year of high school, which means that 1 year will be able to fly high. But I still feel unhappy thinking about it this way. If I change the environment, all the people I know are gone. Originally, he would be liberated in 3 days, and now he had to reread the third year of high school. GU would be big when he thought of the endless exam papers and endless exams. He supported his cheek with one hand, frowned, and tapped on the table with his fingers. He slammed his hand to intercept an eraser hitting his face. Squeezing the rubber tightly, he pursed his lips and glanced sharply at the person throwing the rubber. It's He Jiao. Fine. The fire in his heart was extinguished. Jiu lowered his eyes and listened carefully. He Jiao's face was incredulous, and her eyes were almost staring out. Is Jiu's changed this time? It's not noisy. He used to want to make the sesame matter a big deal, so that her brother knew it, and then took the opportunity to pretend to be a white lotus, crying in front of her brother. Or, he changed his strategy? He Jiao didn't know, so she still wanted to try again, but Jiu didn't give her a chance, so she asked her teacher for leave after class, saying she was uncomfortable and wanted to go back to rest. The teacher granted leave, and Jiu sent another text message to Xia Yuxing, telling him to go back first. Jiu had no money, so he had to walk back the same way he had come. Fortunately, it's not far, it's only a 15-minute walk. As soon as he went back, he turned on the 3-foot digging mode, read all the original owner's things, and finally left a cell phone, a bunch of keys, a bank card, an ID card, and a few sealed needles on the table. And the glass bottle containing the blue liquid, the others were taken back. I couldn't find any information on the phone, and only one door key was recognized in the key. The bank card didn't know the password, but it should be able to be changed with the ID card. But since there is an ID card, what is the collar around the neck for? Also, what is this needle and medicine? They were scattered, unpackaged, and the weird blue liquid made Jiu frown, and he couldn't help but associate it with bad aspects. After all, the color of the injection in his body was not so peculiar in his impression. If you don't understand, don't think about it. Jiu took a pen and paper upstairs. He stood in front of the crib and leaned in to look in. The little guy inside has woken up, his milk has been drunk, and his cheeks are squishy. He smiles when he sees him, his eyes crooked, revealing his pink gums. This child is very well behaved and cute, and has a sweet smile, but he really doesn't take children at all. So Jiu quickly wrote the word Yuseo on the paper. Gently shook the shaker twice, and after playing with the baby for a while, Jiu turned his head and looked at other furnishings, and then wrote on the paper air purifier, computer, bookcase, milk bottle sterilizer. After writing about half a piece of paper, and then circled the most needed ones with a red pen, he stopped writing and went out with his ID card and bank card. He checked the balance on the card, and it turned out to be more than 8 million. You can buy everything you want, and you don't have to make any trade-offs. He thought that the original owner really didn't have any points, so he rented the house. Just as Jiu happily walked through the shopping malls and swept the same items into the shopping cart, Joe kept popping up text messages on his cell phone. Your account ending in 7107. I swiped a dozen of them in a row, and the phone shook endlessly. Brother your phone keeps ringing. The replacement Fei Qiu slobbered and waved to the man who was still sweating on the court. The tall, handsome man turned a deaf ear to nothing but basketball in his eyes. Fei Qiu went over and glanced at the phone. The phone has a code lock, but a message box pops up on the screen. The above message box keeps refreshing, each of which is deduction information. Brother would you like to take a look? Your 7107 card has been deducting fees, don't it be stolen. The men on the court finally stopped their movements and turned and walked towards Fei Qiu. He pulled the collar around his neck casually, and his wolf-like eyes narrowed, seeming to be a little impatient, but in the end he didn't say anything, walked over and picked up the phone and glanced at it. The card with the end number 7107 was given to Gu with a piece of the house. There were 8 million in it, which was supposed to be compensation for his sex. After all, he once marked Gu thoroughly. With this money, he can go to the hospital to wash the mark off and find his next home. However, Gu refused to live or die and wanted to be with him. Together? Laugh. What about 100% pheromone matching? This thing can make him fall in love with him without hesitation, and it can also make him torture him effortlessly, make him surrender, and make him suffer. After all, in the relationship between the sexes, Alpha has absolute control. Joe moved his neck and looked at the text messages on the phone contemptuously. Gu also said that it was not for his money, not for his family background, and vowed to promise not to have a penny from him, but now he is so happy. Also, how could he afford that little thing? Thinking of that little thing, Joe's eyes were filled with gloomy birds. That is his stain and his shame. Your account ending in 7107, the text messages are still being swiped, one after another. Joe didn't bother to look at it. He turned his phone over on the table, shouted towards the court, and soon joined the strong confrontation between alpha elites. On the other side, Gu is shopping frantically. He didn't finish the purchase until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and when he went back, he took the sister-in-law home. This sister-in-law is in her 30s, and her salary is 12,000 a month. She takes care of the children, cleans the house, and cooks 3 meals. Seeing Yuseo skillfully changing the diapers and soaking milk powder to the baby at home, making the baby ha-hail, Gu felt comfortable, lying peacefully on the sofa as a salted fish. Shopping was so tired that he felt that his leg was about to be broken. I really admire those women who can go shopping in high heels. What a fairy! But going out for a while, also let him understand some general situation of this world. This world and his original world are almost indistinguishable. He is still in China. What year was it before he wore it, and what year was it after he wore it? Other than that, national leaders have not changed, the names of the 4 major banks have not changed, and the names of major shopping malls have not changed. Even the brand ice cream at the entrance of the mall is a familiar flavor. He seems to be still in the original world, just changed his identity, and the familiar people around him have been changed. The more I missed, the deeper the emotion, Gu sighed. I don't know what's going on over there. He lowered his eyes, picked up the phone, quickly pressed a few keys with his fingers, and finally hesitated on the call button. After a long pause, the finger was pressed down. The Adam's apple moved. Gu swallowed nervously twice. In the misty bathroom, the sound of water kept rushing. The water stream took away the foam produced by sweat and toiletries, followed a pair of slender and tight legs to slide onto the tiles, and then rushed into the sewers on both sides. The mobile phone that was still on the bed at random by the owner buzzed and kept ringing for several minutes before there was no movement. After taking a shower, Joe casually wrapped a scarf and wiped his hair out of the bathroom. Without the cover of clothes, the solid muscles full of explosive power are exposed to the air, coupled with his height of 1.92 meters, makes him look like a towering mountain, full of momentum in every move. He stroked his hair to the back of his head, exposing a smooth forehead, then stretched out his arm and picked up the phone. There were 3 missed calls on it, all from Jiu. He-jo frowned. What does Jiu want to do? Before he could call back, there was another text message on the phone, which was still sent by Jiu. Hello, please forgive me for taking the liberty to interrupt. May I send you text messages occasionally in the future? Only occasionally, it won't bother you, you can treat it as if you didn't see it. I did this because this phone number is very meaningful to me, so I sincerely plead with you to allow me to text you occasionally. Hope you can think about it after you see the message, thank you. He-jo raised his eyebrows, which one is this? He replied, what's the meaning? Jiu was overjoyed, excited and a little embarrassed, and continued to reply, this is the cell phone number my father used to use. He can't accompany me, so I want, as sustenance. I'm really sorry, but I'm sorry to trouble you. This is his dad's phone number, but in this world, the owner of the phone number is obviously not his dad. His father would not fail to answer the phone. Although there is no difference between this world and the original world in terms of somatosensory, it is different in the end. When I think about it, there are overwhelmingly the figure of that man standing upright in his head. He loves his mother very much, and cares about him very much. He will give him homework guidance. He will also chase him with a belt because he is naughty. In the end, he will call him on his without seriousness. He taught him how to study and also taught him how to be a man. What impressed me the most was his large palm. Will pat his head when he is down, and pat his shoulder when he is fluttering, telling him that boys should be calm and responsible. They have not seen each other for more than a month. They could go home after the college entrance examination, so I don't know when they will see each other again. I really want to go back. On the other side, He-jo looked weird when looking at this text message. Regardless of whether Jiu's father had used this mobile phone number 10 years ago, he said that unable to accompany and as a sustenance are inexplicable enough. Jiu's father is obviously still alive, what does this tone of remembrance mean? Your father is gone? Yes it is. Seeing the confident reply from the other party, He-jo called his subordinates, is Jiu and Sheng still alive? Of course I'm alive, what's the matter, master? You mean nothing, just ask. After hanging up the phone, He-jo glanced at the text message mockingly. No matter how the routine is changed, the essence is still a liar. Still a stupid liar. All fell to this point, and tried to struggle. It's also ridiculous. He wants to see what he is doing. Seeing that the other party hadn't responded for a long time, Jiu thought that the other party had acquiesced to his request. He was relieved, and sincerely sent another thank you message. Thank you. The author has something to say, and a long time later He-jo, I am your dad. Jiu, don't say anything. He-jo raised his cell phone. Jiu was furious, I killed you. Today's message will also send red envelopes. 3. With this series of numbers, it can be regarded as finding some psychological comfort. Putting down the phone, Jiu stretched out his hands and lay on the sofa. Upstairs, the little baby's giggling laughter, accompanied by the contemplative hum of the contemplative coaxing child, inexplicably added a warm atmosphere to this huge empty villa. Fortunately, he is not alone. Jiu yawned, and he was a little tired. The high-intensity brushing questions for several days before the crossing and the tiredness accumulated after the crossing gradually closed his eyes, turned sideways, curled up in the most comfortable position, and fell asleep in a short while. I don't know how long it took, Jiu was awakened by a low call. He rubbed his eyes and sat up from the sofa. On the opposite sofa was the newly hired concubine. I'm sorry, I'm asleep. Jiu glanced at the phone, and now it was past 7 o'clock in the evening. He actually slept ignorantly for so long. Yuseo nodded, the dinner has been prepared, and it is in the kitchen. Do I need to heat it up again? Jiu waved his hand, no need, no, yes, Have you eaten? Not yet. Probably because of an unfamiliar relationship, this concubine is a little stiff. Ji smiled, let's eat together. This laugh made Yuseo stunned. The creator really gave all the softness to Omega, even if the new owner's face was not so good, he still dazzled when he laughed, and his fragile appearance made people unable to help but develop a desire for protection. She said, "Thank you. You are welcome." The dinner made by Yuseo was delicious, but Ji had an average appetite, so he went upstairs to see the little universe after eating. Xiao Universe has already taken a shower and changed his clothes. He has a small pacifier in his mouth, his face is flushed and he is sleeping soundly. The child seemed to be very easy to take, and hadn't heard him cry for a day. Ji stretched out a finger and poked his bulging cheek carefully. The soft touch made people feel soft. He leaned forward and sniffed. The baby's milk smells really good. The sleepy bug was hooked out by the appearance of the small universe slumbering. Ji walked back to the bedroom quickly, preparing to take a bath and fall asleep. However, when he took off his clothes, Ji was stunned. He knew that the original owner was thin, but he didn't expect to be so thin, not to mention the abdominal muscles, there was no clear muscle, and the arm had to be squeezed hard to see a little bulge. Although this figure is thin and not woody, it looks quite well proportioned, but it is definitely unhealthy. Therefore, Ji thought about adding fitness to his daily routine. He even thought that he would buy a dumbbell and come back tomorrow, so he could do his homework and lift the iron. Then his gaze went down naturally, falling on the part that all men cared very much about. After a moment of silence, Ji forced his eyes away from him calmly. He kept comforting himself, it must be that the original owner is not yet fully developed, and should still grow up. No, it will definitely grow up. Will definitely grow up. Ji took a deep breath, closed his eyes and let the hot water wash his body. Before long, he snapped on the shower. Shit! The more you wash in this bath, the more you feel inferior. Don't wash it. He took a large towel and wiped his body casually, then found a pair of shorts to put on. Ji jumped into bed silently, and buried himself deeply in the bed. I will definitely wear it back. I will definitely wear it back. Before falling asleep, Ji kept repeating this sentence. Early the next morning, Ji woke up faintly. Then he had breakfast with a faint expression, and after the meal, he continued to sit on Xia Yuxing's bicycle faintly. What's wrong with you? Xia Yuxing was confused. Ji, it's nothing, it's just a bit of a blow. Xia Yuxing, what blow? Did he Jiao bully you again? Or he Zhou? If yes, can you avenge me? No, but I can accompany you to scold them. I scold people and thieves, and fight against the heroes without fear. Xia Yuxing said this sentence sonorously and boldly. Ji snorted and shook his head, it's not them, it's something else. What the is going on? Ji sighed, I got 0 eggs in the math test. Can't it be said that male self-esteem is frustrated? That's shameful. Xia Yuxing scratched his head, but you have been taking the 0 test before, and I haven't seen you feel uncomfortable. Ji, I woke up suddenly and suddenly felt ashamed. Can I decide to study hard and be a new person? Xia Yuxing patted Ji on the shoulder, that's great. You finally cheer up. I'm so happy for you. Xia Yuxing's high spirits also infected Ji. He took a long sigh of relief, straightened his chest, and felt a lot more comfortable. When parting downstairs in the teaching building, he also waved his hand actively and asked Yuxing to have lunch with him. With his own small circle, Ji ignored all the people in the class. They don't welcome him, and he doesn't want to be friends with them. It's best that everyone stays out of the river. He doesn't care anyway. Immerse your thoughts in the classroom and the sea of questions without distraction, and time will pass quickly. Ji always felt that the class would be dismissed before long, especially the teachers in this school are very good, even if he knows how to do it, he would like to listen to it again. However, he took advantage of some fragmentary time to brush 2 math scrolls. The moment the bell rang and he put down the pen, he was so cool. The haze that had accumulated on his chest also disappeared. Sure enough, learning can solve his sorrow. What to eat? Ji said cheerfully. Xia Yuxing, you go to take a place first, I'll go in line. What do you want to eat? There are too many people at those ordering windows, so it's the fastest here to order food. How about we all have a Tuesday set meal? Ji answered, okay. Xia Yuxing went to line up. Ji looked around to find a place. He found it all at once. There are so many vacancies that you don't need to take up. But this empty space is strange to say, it is a long strip, like a Chu River and Han boundary, separating people on both sides. One side is looking at the tall boys and girls, their waists are straight, but they are full of the aura of the superior while sitting, while the boys and girls on the other side are all shorter in height, either soft or weak. So, it looks bland. Does this school still have body discrimination? Or are these seats reserved for teachers and students cannot sit? But there is no sign that says no to sit. Ji walked over without changing his face, and sat down on this Chu River Hanji. Even because he was particularly yearning for the explosive figure of those tall boys man, he deliberately sat down at the table next to them. He has a serious face without squinting. Yu Guang was very skillful and glanced at the strong bodies of the boys without being noticed. As a man who used to be proud, but suddenly lost his pride, he really couldn't control his gaze, and he couldn't control the envy erupting from his heart. Such a tall figure, the capital should be very majestic. Too envious. He was so envious that he seemed to have eaten a basket of lemons, and his body was sour. He sighed right in his heart, and somehow met people's eyes. The opposite party looked at him blankly, the corners of his mouth curled up, his eyes blazing, as if he were warning and mocking. The man's appearance and physique are exceptionally good, even though there are so many good-looking boys in this school, he is still the most amazing one. Ji Yu's heartbeat missed a beat, and yearning grew uncontrollably in his heart. He pressed his chest without a trace, ignored the inexplicably accelerated heartbeat, and looked back without showing any weakness. Everyone is a man, so what if you appreciate it? Besides, it's not yours. Seeing him glaring back righteously, the arc of the man's mouth disappeared, but the contempt in his eyes doubled. Suddenly, Ji clenched his fists, feeling a sudden warmth in his body. His cheeks gradually turned pink, and his breathing became quicker, and his body began to not obey the command. First, his head lowered, and then his limbs were sore that he couldn't sit still. He suddenly remembered the blue potion he saw when he was packing up yesterday. Is the original owner really a drug addict? Is it a drug addiction now? Just when he couldn't help falling to the side, the power that made him limp suddenly disappeared without a trace. Ji slapped his hand and grabbed the table to prevent himself from falling down. After stabilizing his body, he lay down on the table and gasped for breath, sweating from his body. Those tall boys and girls glanced at him mockingly, not surprising, while the weak boys and girls on the other side were even more unscrupulous, covering their mouths one by one and gloating with misfortune. Originally, Ji wondered if the original owner was sick or addicted to drugs, but he instantly understood when he saw the people around him. Damn, this world has supernatural powers? It must be the one who is pushing him. Ji was very angry, wishing he could slap up the table immediately, rushed over and grabbed the dog's collar and hammered his head, but his body was so weak that he couldn't even lift his head. Ji, why are you sitting here? What's the matter? At this moment, Xia Yuxing hurried over with the dinner plate in both hands. He put down the dinner plate to support Ji's shoulders, and looked up to know what had happened. Xia Yuxing showed fear, he lowered his voice, and regardless of the prepared meal, he set up Ji and walked out. Didn't I tell you not to provoke him? I'm just sitting there. That's the one who forced me. This sentence is very imposing, but Jiyu is weak at this time, and his voice is also soft and weak. Hearing it in human ears is like acting like a baby after being wronged. Xia Yuxing squeezed him quickly. Hush! Stop talking if you have no energy. Jiyu was furious. Why can't you say it? We can't beat him. Did you see that punchbag big fist? Our family can't do his little finger together. Stop it, ancestor. You weren't so rigid before. Seeing that Jiyu still had to speak, Xia Yuxing quickly covered his mouth with his eyes. Jiyu rolled his eyes with anger, and was dragged away by Xia Yuxing staggeringly. After the two left, the people in the cafeteria still whispered from time to time. It wasn't until the pop that a pair of chopsticks were slapped on the table, and the cafeteria suddenly became quiet. All eyes were focused on Hezhou in the alpha dining area at the same moment, and after only one glance, he shrank his neck and retracted his gaze, turning his head and eating his meal silently. Everyone knows that there is a story between Hezhou, the strongest alpha in the school, and Jiyu, the worst omega in the school. Although it is not clear what the specific content is, I can more or less guess it. After all, the cancellation of the marriage contract between Hezhou and Xiechi has been raged, and no one knows. Everyone had guessed that Hezhou met his true fate, omega, otherwise, how could a person like him who is dispensable for a partner put the whole family's interests behind for one person? Indeed, as they thought, an omega appeared in Hezhou's life, named Jiyu. But this omega came from a humble background. If it weren't for Hezhou, he wouldn't be able to enter the Dragon City 1 high school. Even if he did, he would be out of place, and his behavior was full of the shabby and cowardly of the lower class. Every time he meets Hezhou, he rushes to hug his thighs in vain. He is completely like a villain, and everyone is very disgusted. But he was from Hezhou, and everyone dared not say anything. Until Jiyu suddenly quit school and gave birth to a child, he was supposed to fly into He's house to become a phoenix, but suddenly there was no news. Returning to school after a year later, not only was he not being seen by Hezhou, even a noble girl like Hejiao who cherished her fame couldn't help being dirty at him. It can be seen that something must have happened in the year he disappeared. No alpha would treat an omega who was completely marked by him and gave birth to him in this way, unless the omega did something very excessive. However, this matter was concealed by the He family so much that no one outsiders knew it. It was because of concealment and ignorance that people wanted to know more about what happened, so there were speculations all at once, and finally due to the coercion of Hezhou and the He family, everyone closed their mouths one after another. This topic has gradually become a taboo. The author has something to say. Jiyu, who would think of Abo in the world? Who can miss you? 2. Messages in this chapter also send red envelopes. W. Didn't you promise me not to provoke him? Jiyu leaned on the steps, frowning and wondering, who did I provoke? Is he provoke me? Xia Yuxing persuaded, even if he provokes you, you should avoid it. Jiyu. Jiyu. Xia Yuxing is a beta. Although he is much more powerful than Omega, his physical fitness is still mediocre. After carrying Jiyu for a while, he will be exhausted. He sat next to Jiyu, beating his shoulders and squeezing his legs, and said, "Fortunately, Hezhou doesn't care about it, otherwise we didn't know if we could get out of the cafeteria." Jiyu was silent. Xia Yuxing told him the name Hezhou. According to that person's appearance, it should be Hejiao's brother. The anger was poured out instantly. All right, he will walk a little farther from now on with the surname He. I know, I will avoid him in the future. Xia Yuxing, you promised me yesterday. Jiyu. Jiyu, this is the last time, there is absolutely no next time. Xia Yuxing, who is bothered and innocent, decided to trust Jiyu again. The two went to the supermarket to buy a piece of bread to make lunch, and went back to the classroom after eating. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the head teacher came to the classroom. Are any classmates uncomfortable? Everyone shook their heads, and the only Jiyu who didn't signal was lying on the desk and sleeping soundly. Longcheng No. 1 Middle School has a long lunch break, and he likes it very much. Experts always say that a 15-minute to half an hour nap is the best, but Jiyu takes so much time to fall asleep, and he has to get up to class as soon as he falls asleep, which is a torture for him, so he simply stayed asleep and took a nap. Time is spent on the questions. For this reason, he is often told by his classmates that his behavior has brought them pressure, but in fact he likes to sleep very much, but never takes a short nap. Okay, then the squad leader will organize it and take everyone to the gym to relax. After that, the head teacher left the classroom. When Jiyu woke up, he just heard half a sentence. He didn't feel relieved, blinked his sleepy eyes, and yawned leisurely. The table was suddenly slapped hard, and Jiyu's yawn was frightened back with a snap. I rely on. Jiyu looked at the visitor with a dazed and unhappy expression, wondering why people in this world always force him to swear. The monitor glared at him, vulgar. Keep up with the team. What do you do? He asked uncomfortably. The monitor ignored him and took the others out of the classroom. Jiyu knew that he had no human rights in this class, so he sighed and followed the team. Entering the gymnasium, the squad leader took them around to the door of the locker room. Everyone line up to lead the swimsuits and caps, change them and gather in pool 8. As she said, she opened the 2 disinfection boxes, girl on the left, boy on the right. Jiyu was stuffed with a pair of fluorescent green swimming trunks, cotton, elastic, and very close to the body. Just looking at it, I knew that this thing would definitely outline any line of the body that was extraordinary, regular, clear and clear. Can he take sick leave now? The squad leader gave him a very impatient push. Quickly go in and change, what are you blocking here? Jiyu. He sighed again, thinking about the big deal and stuffing something in his front pocket. As a result, this trick is not used at all, because everyone is the same. Not only that, but he thought that he didn't have any hair, and he didn't expect that there were so many people like this, so it seemed abrupt among the boys who really stuffed something. Even his size in the class is still in the forefront. Jiyu, I feel comforted inexplicably. His waist straightened again, and he calmly followed everyone to the 8th pool. Because everyone is already in the 3rd year of high school, swimming has been learned in the 1st year of high school, so swimming class becomes a relaxation class. In this class, you can swim or hide while chatting, as long as you don't get out of the swimming pool. It just so happened that the teacher asked for leave again, and the lifeguard was replaced by boys of the same grade, and everyone was less stressed. Jiyu has good water and also likes to swim very much. But this body is too weak, and he loses energy after swimming in a circle, so he has to lie down and rest by the pool. Just lying on his stomach and doing nothing is boring, so he pinched his nose to practice holding his breath. Jiyu immersed himself in the water, and the noise disappeared instantly, leaving only the sound of water in his ears. The water slid across the body, cool and comfortable, and then closed my eyes, and after a while, my heart gradually calmed down. However, the lung capacity of this body is not good, and it starts to lack oxygen in less than a minute. Jiyu stretched out his hand to put his head on the edge of the pool, poking his head out of the water, breathing heavily. He wiped the water off his face and slowly opened his eyes. The eyes are a bit stinging, and it seems that water is still getting in. He raised his head, and the hand rubbing his eyes suddenly stopped. A pair of man's feet appeared in front of him. This is a pair of masculine and beautiful feet, with slender toes, neat and clean toenails, broad soles, and perfect arch lines. It looks very manly. Further up, there is a bronze calf with strong muscles but not abrupt and unsightly. With just a pair of feet, Jiyu felt that this man's figure would never be bad. Sure enough, the more you look up, the more sour Jiyu is. The slender leg lines, the strong and tight thigh muscles, and the strong capital that is clearly outlined in tight briefs. The more you look, the more sour. Forget it to death. He took a deep breath to calm his mood, and looked up at the person's face. The acidity disappeared, and he wanted to kill the opponent a little bit. Why are you here? Ji said calmly. He-Jo looked down at him. I almost went down to fish you. Ji-Yu's gaze fell on the work card on his chest, which read Lifeguard He-Jo. It turned out that he was one of the lifeguards the teacher got. Just keep your breath away. 58 seconds, it's pretty good for a body like you. Ji-Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. Is this person complimenting him or taunting him? What's wrong with a body like me? He-Jo's answer was straightforward and brief, very weak. Ji-Yu. Well, this is really taunting him, or the kind that makes no secret of it. He looked at He-Jo expressionlessly. He-Jo put his hands around his chest and stood by the pool looking down at Ji-Yu. Gradually, the atmosphere became more subtle. In this suffocating atmosphere, Ji-Yu unexpectedly stretched out his hands and grabbed He-Jo's ankles. At the same time, he arched up and kicked his bent legs against the wall of the pool, trying to use his strength to drag He-Jo into the water. However, after his operation, He-Jo still stood firmly by the pool. Ji-Yu. He-Jo. The air suddenly fell silent. The scene was very embarrassing, and even suffocated. Ji-Yu blinked. You can do it, you are awesome. After speaking, he awkwardly but gracefully retracted his hand holding He-Jo's calf. He-Jo knelt down, and Ji-Yu's face was reflected in his deep black pupils. Changed routine again. Ji-Yu is inexplicable, what? Don't you just want to get my attention? I peeked at other men's lower body while eating. My eyeballs stuck to my place just now and I didn't want to move them away. Why, it's going to be in heat. Ji-Yu raised his eyebrows, what are you talking about? Send your sister's affection. It is true that the dog is right to call him by this name. He-Jo glanced at the people who pretended to be eavesdropping around him, and rolled his lower lip unhappily. He suddenly reached out and pinched Ji-Yu's armpit, and with one hand he lifted the person out of the pool like a chicken. Ji-Yu. He couldn't calm down anymore and struggled hard, is your brain sick? Let me down. Grass. He was a big man who was picked up in full view. He-Jo is no longer just stomping on his face. He throws his dignity on the ground and slams under his feet, not only stomping, but also crushing with his feet. Let me down. Put me down, do you hear? He-Jo, I am your day. Lao Ziiriu. Did you hear that ri? A sensual pop sounded, very loud, and Ji-Yu was silent for an instant. Suddenly he looked like a broken wire puppet, lying on He-Jo's shoulder with a dazed expression, letting him carry it, no longer struggling, his head hanging down and no sound was heard. Some people are still alive, but he is dead. He-Jo resisted Ji-Yu to a blocked entrance passage under the stands. This swimming pool is very large, with 10 swimming pools and 8 entrances. When there are no important events, only 4 are open, and the others are locked. Standing in this place can avoid the eyes of others, and there is no need to worry about someone coming in from the outside. He-Jo put Ji-Yu down, but this person sat on the ground as if he had lost his soul. He-Jo frowned and reached out and grabbed Ji-Yu's shoulder, stand well. I am already dead. He-Jo. The moment you spanked me. He-Jo. He let go, and Ji-Yu fell to the ground softly, as if he had died. Get up, he said again. Ji-Yu closed his eyes, motionless. He-Jo sneered, didn't you just say you want me? I can't beat it, it's too late, so I give up. He-Jo. Stand up. I do not. He-Jo put his hands around his chest, standing still looking at Ji-Yu indifferently. He always felt that something was wrong with Ji-Yu. The courage is not a little bit, and the spirit is more, not afraid of him or to please him, on the contrary, like a combative little wolf dog, he is aggressive and rigid, and he was actually trying to be clever to drag him into the water. How dare he? Just as He-jo looked at him with his eyes, Ji-yu suddenly opened his eyes. He got up quickly and moved quickly behind He-jo, locked He-jo's throat with his hands, and his legs around his chest, and then slammed him to the ground forcefully, trying to throw him to the ground. However, He-jo stayed still, even calmly saying, "Do you want to tickle me?" The air fell silent again. The scene was very embarrassing, and even suffocated. Ji-yu is a little skeptical of life. "Well, you are awesome, you are so mad at me." He-jo grabbed the dead fish like Ji-yu in front of him, "Stand well." Ji-yu kicked the iron plate, and he agreed. "What are you doing?" He-jo reached out and clicked on the neck ring on Ji-yu's neck. The pheromone concentration displayed on it was not far from estrus. The neck ring has two functions: one is to converge pheromone, to prevent interference with normal social interaction. The other is to display the pheromone concentration, which can only be seen by the owner of the collar and the person with the permission of the owner of the collar. It is mainly helpful for Omega and his alpha to plan their trips in advance, free up time, and allow both parties to spend the estrus perfectly. He-jo said, "Go back today and get an injection immediately. Don't think I will help you." Ji-yu is inexplicable. "What?" He-jo turned a deaf ear to him and looked at him coldly. "You succeeded once, but there will never be a second time. Ji-yu. Also, stay away from me in the future and don't come to provoke me." After that, He-jo turned around and left, leaving Ji-yu a cold and determined back. Ji-yu stood in place, full of question marks. What to get an injection? So who is it that provokes someone? He cursed in a low voice, and reached out his hand to compare his to He-jo's back. "Ha ha! What a big hang!" The author has something to say. He-jo, to the duck red envelopes are still given out in this chapter, so go for the college entrance examination, darlings. Duck. Ji-yu doesn't like to make trouble, but he is not afraid of trouble either. He not only has good grades, but also has strong hands-on skills. He has also learned Kung Fu from the retired old man next door for several years. Not to mention how good he is, it is enough to sling ordinary people. Therefore, no one in the school dares to say that he is a nerd, even there are also a large number of fans. But He-jo is obviously not an ordinary person. No matter how weak Ji-yu's body is now, he weighs 100 jin, and he aimed at places where the body is weaker twice, but He-jo still doesn't move. As if really told him, Ji-yu's offensive was just scratching him. Ji-yu couldn't help wondering if there really were any supernatural powers in this world, otherwise how could it be so powerful based on physical fitness? Make a note of this point, Ji-yu is going to check it out. Think about it, there is still a little expectation. After all, which boy hasn't had a dream related to abilities and superpowers? If there were real powers, what would the powers of this body be? After leaving the entrance passage, Ji-yu reappeared in the sight of everyone. He glanced at the crowd. "What are you looking at?" Others were either soaking in the water or sitting by the pool. Their reaction was the same as when Ji-yu entered the class for the first time. They gave him a very unified look, and then turned their heads away from him. Ji-yu didn't care too much. He looked around, but he didn't find He-jo. After such a fuss, he lost the interest in swimming. He paled and sat down in the stands to rest with some discomfort. Ji-yu touched the back of his neck, feeling a little hot to the touch, and then touched his heart, and felt that his heartbeat was a little faster. In addition to these, the most uncomfortable thing was the restlessness in his body. This restlessness had just happened, but he was forcibly resisted. This feeling is inexplicable, not the kind of excitement and enthusiasm on the blood, but it seems, like is longing for something. Yes, longing. Very strong desire. But the desire cannot be satisfied, so it is more restless. This dryness affects his emotions and nerves, not only makes him feel irritable, but also makes him respond physiologically, but this reaction makes Ji-yu extremely incomprehensible, because It turned out not that there was an urge to vent in the front, but a thorny enthusiasm behind that made him fidget. Don't get hemorrhoids. After 18 years, Gu was a little worried. He didn't expect anything else. He only thought it was a precursor to the onset of bacterial infection. Just thinking about it, Gu was even more unable to sit still. He looked around and thought about it, or he went to say hello to the monitor. After saying hello, he went out of the swimming pool and planned to take a bath. It just so happened that there was no one in the bathroom, so he could grab his legs and see what was going on. Happening. Joe also felt this kind of restlessness. The 100% pheromone match is not a joke. Even if he is forced to suppress it, his body will involuntarily respond. This is why he is so anxious to leave. In the empty male alpha bathroom, there is a place where the sound of water is clear, the mist is steaming, and it is mixed with the man's low and snorting. Joe raised his head, and his wet black hair was straightened behind his head, revealing a smooth and full forehead. The water slid over the straight bridge of the nose, followed the perfectly lined chin and neck down, and passed through the full-shaped wheat-colored muscles, and then all the way down, sliding down the straight long legs to the ground. The man frowned tightly, seemingly a bit distressed. After a long time, the man's brows could not be stretched. It wasn't until he heard a sudden noise coming from outside the bathroom that he cursed inwardly, and added a bit of strength to his hand. Gu was lost. This gymnasium was too big, and there were so many entrances and exits inside. He went around and didn't know where he went, and he couldn't even find the locker room. But man, not just too small. You can take the bath first, then rub the shorts twice, then put them back on and change clothes. Ask others to borrow bath towels and shower gel. So, he came to the bathroom empty-handed. Why not alone? Gu poked his head towards the bathroom, and there were empty seats in his eyes. Although he doesn't want to be seen scratching his legs and looking at his ass, he can't do it alone, otherwise he doesn't have any toiletries. Wouldn't he just take the bath for nothing? After listening carefully, Gu finally caught a little movement, which came from the deepest part of the bathroom. Someone is fine. Thinking about it this way, he walked towards the innermost point, wanting to borrow some soap or shower gel first. The closer you get, the louder the sound of water. Gu didn't notice anything, so he walked over very naturally, and said, "Brother, let me." The voice suddenly stopped. His eyes widened. Grass. So big, huge. Is that human being? Excuse me. Looking further, Gu felt that he was going to be autistic in the same place. Joe had already noticed that someone was approaching, but he didn't expect that the other party would come over so aggressively, staring at his lower body, and making an appearance of envy. Good dong. Gu swallowed. Joe. There was a hungry swallowing sound. Gu was also stunned by his actions. He didn't care about his previous grudges at all, and widened his eyes and waved his hands vigorously. "No, brother, listen to me and I will appreciate it, man, haha, you know." Joe didn't avoid it, and looked at Gu coldly. "You can admire the point of drooling." Fuck. Embarrassing. Gu knew he was wrong, his face turned red, and he covered his forehead. I'm sorry, you continue to wash, haha, I'm going to the next door, I'm sorry. As he spoke, he stepped back, and he was relieved until he left Joe's field of vision. Gu covered his beating heart, and couldn't believe that he had actually made such a wretched action. Am I the devil? The ratio between men is normal, and sometimes even peeing will subconsciously glance at the person next to him, but it is mostly ridicule. Vanity is ridiculous, and Gu doesn't think there is any wretchedness. What made him feel awkward was that after seeing Joe's guy, he swallowed a bit, and even gave birth to an urge to step forward and help. Gu hugged his head and squatted down, a little dazed. He must be stunned. He is obviously a straight man. Although he has been busy studying and has never been in a relationship before, he has already planned to find a schoolgirl in college to talk about a romantic and rational relationship. Therefore, I am definitely not gay. Impossible. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. It must be the devil, it must be Gigi's smaller size that hit him, that's why he was so envious of Gigi. It must be. After finishing his thoughts, Jiu found a shower head nearby to take a bath. He took off his shorts and wanted to make a quick decision. Zhou, who was on the other side of the wall, was even more puzzled when he heard the noise on the other side. There is something wrong with Jiu. Why would an Omega take a shower in Alpha's bathroom? This is tantamount to getting into a tiger's mouth. If he came to him on purpose, it would be too risky. Even if he completely marked Jiu, Omega is still extremely attractive to other alphas. Even if he wears a neck ring and blocks the smell of pheromone, the naked body that belongs to Omega can still make alpha's blood boiling, instinctively wanting to press Omega under him. Generally speaking, no Omega will do this. One is that their bodies are too weak to bear the consequences of being targeted by more than one alpha. The other is that once the Omega, which has been thoroughly marked, is violated by a non-marked person, it will be extremely painful. Coupled with Jiu's ignorant and fearless expression and his behavior in the pool today, Zhou looked down slightly, and he had a guess in his heart. He stepped forward and wanted to ask Jiu in the past. But he didn't want to just walk over, and a scene that made him surging with blood rushed straight into his eyes. Jiu is washing chrysanthemums. Zhou. He stopped, a little weird in his eyes. I saw Jiu leaning on the wall with one leg, splitting a horse vertically. He himself didn't expect this body to be so soft. Not only did he relax, his waist and cervical vertebrae were also extremely soft, and he could only bend his waist hard, and he would have a panoramic view of everything he wanted to see. There is a little red, but it should be normal. Just a little too sensitive, even if Jiu relaxes his body, he will keep shrinking. It doesn't seem to be a big problem. Maybe it's because this body is more squeamish. After seeing Jiu, he let go of his heart, he retracted his gaze, straightened up, and leaned on the faucet to retract his leg. However, when he straightened his waist, he met Zhou's gaze. He paused, then moved his gaze down again. Jiu. Hey, that's too much. Why do you react so much to a man? Zhou. Jiu was always weak and shy in front of him, even if he was crying and crying. Although he was a little contrived, he did cry very beautifully. He had never been so rough. Zhou cleared his throat. You. Jiu quickly recovered his calm expression. What do you look at? Haven't seen the split. As he said, he retracted his leg calmly, but didn't want to be barefoot, unable to stand firm, staggered twice, seeing that he was about to fall to the ground, stretched out a pair of big hands halfway, grabbed his arm and pulled him up. However, because of inertia, he was still unsteady. Then, one head plunged into the firm pectoral muscles that he coveted. Jiu. Zhou. The air fell into silence again. Jiu pressed his lips tightly and closed his eyes. He felt his stomach stunned. What, you've been stunned? Just think about it and you'll know. He stepped back abruptly, waiting for the launch on his lips with a sound of humiliation. But he held back it, closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and said every word, you, him, Mom, are you sick, are you? The voice gritted his teeth and his eyes were full of anger. Zhou raised his eyebrows. No one had ever spoken to him in this tone before he was so old, especially Jiu. He couldn't wait to confess himself. In front of him, he always kept his voice in a low voice. When did he say such a thing? Seeing that Zhou was silent, Jiu said again, also, brother, are you gay? Although I insist that everyone is equal and does not discriminate against gay, isn't it appropriate for you to come to the men's bathroom so swagger? After that, Ji curled his eyebrows and clamped his hips without a trace. Fuck, that kind of dryness is coming again. He smiled swiftly after hearing this. He narrowed his sharp eyes, looking at Ji for a moment, and took the words, I said. Okay. He glanced at Jiu's lower body, you also have a reaction, so you are too. The author has something to say, Jiu, am I broken? Today is also one day to send red envelopes. Jiu lowered his head and glanced, his expression stunned. He pressed his lips, and fell silent. The sound of water rushed in the bathroom, and the hot mist surrounded the two of them. After a while, no one spoke. Jiu lowered his head silently, but the arc of Hejo's lips grew wider and wider. The word is a bit old. In the history he has studied, this word existed when humans were not differentiated into alpha, beta, and omega. At that time, there were only men and women, and men who liked the same would be called gay. Now that nearly 100 years have passed since the separation, people's first descriptions of gender have also become alpha, beta, and omega, and they don't care if they are male or female. Because men and women of the same attribute, apart from appearance, there is almost no difference. No one has said the word gay for a long time, and not many people even know it. So, where did Jiu, a person who doesn't like learning at all and can get a 0 score on the test, heard this word from? It's still used like this. It's serious, it seems that he still thinks there is nothing wrong with his wording. After waiting for a long time, I couldn't wait until the reaction disappeared. Instead, the feeling of restlessness became more and more serious. Jiu was discouraged. He grabbed his hair a little anxiously, curled his eyebrows and said, of course I am not gay. Hejo raised his chin towards him and motioned to him to explain his reaction. Jiu licked his lips and looked away. God knows that his heartbeat is very fast now, and his throat is also extremely thirsty, and even his lower legs have a tendency to soften, and he must be strained to maintain his standing posture. Although he didn't know what was going on with his body, he intuitively told Jiu that he should leave here, otherwise something bad might happen. A man reacts normally at any time. As Jiu turned on the faucet, he lowered his expression, I feel uncomfortable, so let's go first. You can wash it slowly. He was anxious to leave, but Hejo stretched out his hand to stop him. That's it. Hejo looked down at him. Jiu leaned back, avoiding the man's hot breath, looking impatient, then what do you want? Hejo seemed to put his hand on Jiu's shoulder casually. This action seemed to activate a certain switch on Jiu's body. He was shocked all over, he only felt that the heat that was originally only surging under the skin seemed to be awakening suddenly, rushing to get out. The skin was slightly stained pink, his head gradually became dizzy, and his consciousness became blurred. His legs were so soft that he could no longer stand. Jiu blinked blankly, watching his body fall forward and leaning into Hejo's chest in a bird-like posture. And Hejo was like a high emperor, he was expressionless, watching him make a fool of himself, without even helping him, letting him fall weakly along his chest, and finally sat down on the ground. The cold ground and knee pain made Jiu wake up for a moment, but the next second he raised his head and fell into a mysterious trance again. It seems that he should be kneeling like this. Just look up at this man like this, please him, make him happy, and then crawl on the ground, expose the most fragile back of the neck, and offer it to him. Why offer the back of the neck? Jiu didn't know, his mind was completely confused, and he couldn't think at all. You are not Jiu. Jiu blinked in confusion, his eyes empty, I am. The back of his neck is so hot that it makes him irritable. Who will help him? How old are you? 18. The ears are buzzing, so annoying, can you stop asking? Identity. Are you annoying? Jiu exploded, his eyes were red, and he touched the ground with his fingers, is it uncomfortable if I didn't see me? He opened his mouth unconsciously and gasped. Hejo looked down at him, then chuckled lightly. He felt that Jiyu in front of him was like a milky cat with fried fur. It was obviously fragile and could not stand a blow, but he dared to wave his claws in front of the lion. Whether it was his demeanor or his actions, it was very interesting. Especially those eyes that were stained with the color of desire, black and bright, seemed to glow. He reached out and clicked on the neck ring on Xiaojiyu's neck. The pheromone concentration displayed on it was extremely close to the estrus standard, indicating that Jiyu may enter the estrus period at any time. It's too fast. He Zhou muttered. Jiyu was shocked by the cold, and his expression was at a loss, not just tonight and night. It took a while before he blinked, trying to look around. His Jiyu bared his teeth with pain, and reached out his hand and carefully touched the back of his neck. There was no blood, but the skin seemed to be broken. You just passed out and knocked your neck on the tap. Jiyu followed the voice and looked over. It was He Zhou. He has put on his clothes, and is sitting on a stool working on his phone. Really? I don't remember well. Jiyu glanced around. Where is this? Locker room. Oh. He looked down at himself. Where's my clothes? Do you have clothes? Shorts. He Zhou pointed to the side of the chair. You just wear this. I screwed 2 of them before, and they are clean. Jiyu said, shaking with his shorts, pretending to wear them. You touched your shorts on the ground when you fainted. Jiyu stopped his hands immediately. Do you have soap? You can borrow it from me, or shower gel. No. Okay, then twist 2 more, anyway, I'll change it right away. Thinking about this, Jiyu was not in a hurry. He turned around and jumped on the spot, and then stretched out his hands and stomped his feet, and found that his body was not uncomfortable at all, except that his neck was a little bit sore. When is it now? How long have I fainted? He Zhou caught his free and easy actions in his eyes, and said, there are still 5 minutes until the end of get out of class. You only fainted for 10 minutes. Jiyu nodded, and doesn't say thank you, but thank you anyway. Thank you. With that said, he was about to go into the bathroom with shorts. He Zhou suddenly said at this moment, the army is coming in 5 minutes, won't you leave? Jiyu turned his head and said strangely, why are you leaving? They wash theirs, I wash mine, it doesn't matter if they are all men. He Zhou suddenly curled his lips, their figures are almost the same as mine. Jiyu stopped, so. I thought you understood my suggestion. Jiyu. He hesitated. He Zhou's face in his heart, then turned and continued to walk towards the bathroom. He Zhou looked at his back and smiled silently. In the bathroom, Jiyu rubbed his shorts several times, wringing out and putting them on when he felt it was almost done. Walking out of the bathroom, he saw He Zhou still sitting in a chair, and asked casually, aren't you leaving? He Zhou, waiting for you. Why wait for me? He Zhou shrugged and looked calmly, it's nothing now. Jiyu narrowed his eyes, he always felt that He Zhou was planning something. This person looked serious on the surface, but after touching it, he would find that there was something bad in his eyes. For example, making him foolish in the cafeteria, or now, he feels that his inattentive tone is tentative and teasing, as if he is something interesting. Neurosis. Jiyu secretly thought, not planning to have any entanglement with others, and turned his head and walked out of the bathroom. This time he went round and round, but he found it smoothly. But when he went back, he was severely approved by the squad leader, saying that he had no class discipline and walked everywhere, asking him to write 500 words of reflection, and hand it to her tomorrow morning. Finding the way was indeed delayed for a long time, so Jiyu had to pinch his nose to admit it. In the evening, Jiyu and Xia Yuxing went home together, and he talked about it. Does the monitor have so much power? He was a little puzzled. No, but your squad leader is different. She has a good relationship with the teacher, and she likes to supervise people and engage in these privileged things. You can search the internet and just copy 500 words to her. Xia Yuxing ate the popsicles and ice. His mouth kept hissing, by the way, you have met He Zhou again. Ji Yu was shocked, how do you know? Your neck is swollen like that, when I am blind. Xia Yuxing rolled his eyes. Ji Yu touched his neck and was a little surprised, I guessed it just by looking at the neck. It's a bit powerful, but it has nothing to do with him, not by him. Xia Yuxing was taken aback. He swallowed the ice in his mouth, almost freezing his mind. Who did it? Who did you get along with? Ji Yu. Why did the topic jump from the wound on his neck to whom to follow? Is there any connection between this? He felt inexplicable, but he was afraid of saying something wrong, so he vaguely said, I accidentally fell while taking a bath and hit the faucet on my neck, which broke my skin. As he touched the back of his neck, he hissed exaggeratedly, it hurts. Xia Yuxing pursed his lips, looked at him in silence for a while and then stopped turning his head, don't say it, but don't be the same this time, otherwise I really won't be your brother. The sudden serious atmosphere made Ji Yu puzzled. He waved his hand subconsciously, no, absolutely not. Seeing Ji Yu's nervous appearance, Xia Yuxing was happy, don't be nervous, I still support you in a normal relationship. Ji Yu still waved his hand, I'm busy, I don't have time to fall in love. Xia Yuxing finally didn't ask any more questions. The topic just passed, Ji Yu breathed a sigh of relief. The two separated at the gate of the community where Ji Yu lived. Seeing Xia Yuxing's back, Ji Yu's shoulders collapsed and his brows gradually wrinkled. He still knows too little about Ji Yu. If Xia Yuxing asks more, he will definitely expose it. But what can he do? The original owner doesn't keep a diary. He bought the computer at home after he came. The phone is as clean as a new factory. Without parents, his classmates reject him. Even if he wants to understand, he has nowhere to understand, so he can only guess at home. It's like playing a decryption game. There was nothing wrong with this thing, so Ji Yu had to go home first and talk about it. This time he went home and rarely encountered Xiao Universe awake. Little Universe was obediently held by the Yuseo on her shoulders, her grape-like eyes were round, and the little fleshy hand was holding onto the Yuseo's clothes, looking quite crisis-conscious. Ji Yu put his school bag aside, wiped his hands with a wet towel, walked over and scratched the palm of Xiao Universe's hand. Xiao Universe grabbed Ji Yu's finger and smiled so that his eyes were bent into crescents. Come on, give it to me, I will hug him. Ji Yu rarely had the urge to take a child. He took Xiao Universe into his arms like a nanny, holding his little butt, and gently tipping him while walking, making Xiao Universe laugh with joy. His little hand always touched Ji Yu's injured neck. Ji Yu pulled it away twice, and he still reached out his hand persistently, grabbing it with his little hand, insisting to touch it. It's okay, you can't touch it. Little Universe blinked his eyes and clasped his hands in front of his chest, wow. Yes, my brother's neck hurts, wow, so you can just scream, okay. Ji Yu lifted the small Universe up and let him lie on his shoulders, did you see it? Wow. Will you give me a call to brother? However, Ji Yu didn't wait for the little baby's cute whir, only felt a ball of saliva sticking to the injured area of his neck. He grinned with pain, but Xiao Universe jumped happily. Papa! The author has something to say. Ji Yu was taken aback, suddenly his father's love surged, call me? Wow, little Universe! Dad loves you! He Zhou? He Zhou, what are you being passionate about? For readers who have never seen ABO, the attack in this chapter is to temporarily mark the accept, that is, A bites O's back neck and injects his pheromone into O's blood, so that it can temporarily resist the estrus period. Simple. In other words, for a brief moment of satisfaction, if you are in heat, you must be on the ground with real swords and guns. Did I want to comment more, so the little red envelope keeps walking 3. What did you call me just now? Ji Yu hugged Xiao Universe in front of him. He was overjoyed, and he couldn't even take care of the pain in his neck. It was the first time he listened to Xiao Universe when he had been a father for so long, and he called Dad when he opened his mouth. Little Universe tilted his head to look at him, round eyes with big doubts. Call again, call Dad. Ji sat cross-legged on the sofa, teaching a little strangely, Bobby, Dad, Dad, come, shout again, just the one you shouted just now, do it again. Xiao Universe looked at Ji, then frowned, and suddenly lowered his head to play with his fingers, He looked uninterested. After that, Ji taught it many times, but Xiao Universe ignored it, and even his eyelids drooped more and more. It seemed that he was about to fall asleep when he shouted Dad. Ji. He sighed, hugged Xiao Universe to his shoulders, and under the guidance of Yuseo, patted the little milk baby on the back to coax him to sleep. But I didn't want to. The little milk baby, who was still drowsy, suddenly regained his energy. 2 short legs stepped on Jiu's belly, and the little head kept arching toward his neck. Papa, the little milk sound can be sweet or sweet. Hey, you little villain. Jiu was happy. He patted Xiao Universe's butt. Teach you not to shout, don't you shout, and shout vigorously, deliberately. Xiao Universe grinned his lips happily, and his big dark eyes were shining. After smiling, he pouted his mouth and screamed at Jiu in a funny way. Jiu smiled directly onto the sofa. You are a little badass, he said. Little Universe looked at him, and his short legs bounced with joy. The little Universe tonight is extremely sweet and clingy. He doesn't want to sleep, and he doesn't want milk to be fed by his sister-in-law. His 2 little arms grabbed Jiu's clothes and refused to let go. Maybe the relationship between father and son, between big and small boys, is so easy to establish. Jiu was so happy after hearing his yelling from his father a few times. The more he looked at the universe, the more he liked it. Little Universe refused to leave him, and he really kept holding him. When Jiu was eating, Xiao Universe was lying on his shoulder and drinking milk. When he was working on his homework, Xiao Universe lay in his arms to take a nap. When he took a bath, he set Xiao Universe in a swimming ring and let him float in the bathtub to play in the water. When he sleeps on Jiu, he doesn't worry. He sleeps well. He basically falls asleep in any posture and wakes up in what posture. There is no need to worry about being pressed into the small universe. So after a fence around the bed, he feels confident and boldly follow a talent. A little baby over 7 months old lay together. However, Xiao Universe seemed to be particularly concerned about the wound on his neck, but he also knew that Jiu would hurt, so he couldn't touch his mouth if he didn't touch it. He just leaned very close and had to stick his little head next to his neck. Jiu adjusted his posture in coordination and attached it affectionately to Xiao Universe. He was extremely tired tonight. He kept yawning while working on his homework. He couldn't open his eyes even after taking a shower. He felt overindulgence during the day and hollowed out at night, so it was less than 10 o'clock. He lay on the bed with the little milk baby, and didn't want to move his fingers. Jiu was not asleep yet. He held Xiao Universe's hand and said, "Since you called my father, then I will cover you in the future. Speaking of which, we are also considered blood-linked. After all, your father's body is mine now. But your father's body doesn't seem to be very good. He fainted today. He fainted for 10 minutes. I don't know if there is a problem, I guess. He may be anemia." Yet, Little Universe couldn't understand. He was looking down to play with Jiu's hand. Jiu yawned and said, "How did you live with your father before? Does he love you?" "My dad loves me a lot. If he knows that he has a grandson suddenly, he will probably wake up in his dreams. He can bring children. If he is here, you don't have to stay at home every day. Forget it, let's not talk about him. Do you remember your mother? Did she hold you?" Jiu's voice became lighter and softer, and his tone was as soft as moonlight. "I know my mother is very important. Roll, but I may not be able to find you another mother, maybe one day, I will go back. Speaking, Ji gently squeezed the fleshy little hand of the small universe. You are also a little pitiful, alas. Little universe has been silent. Ji glanced sideways, only to find that he was asleep on his neck. The carefree appearance of a child can most infect people, coupled with the faint milky fragrance, it makes people feel calm, and the corners of their mouths rise unconsciously. He smiled, stretched out his hand to tuck the corner of Xiao Universe, and whispered, "Good night." Then he stretched out his hand and turned off the light. The bedroom dimmed instantly, and a faint moonlight poured in from the window. On the bed, one big head and one small head are next to each other, and the picture of sleeping is very warm. Just when Jia was sleeping, a post in the campus forum of Longcheng No. 1 Middle School appeared quietly, waiting for fermentation in secret subject. Have you seen it? There seems to be a bite mark on the back of the man's neck. Who did that mark it? First floor? Who is that person? So who is who? Second floor, the title is understood in seconds. I have seen that he was marked during the swimming class. He left the pool halfway through the class, and was marked when he came back from get out of class, and he had a dispute with that person during the class, and then who first after leaving, he followed after a while, and the two disappeared together for the second half of the class. Third floor, then why would anyone be with you? You are not in the same class. Fourth floor, our teacher asks for leave, who will be the lifeguard? Fifth floor, here is a freshman in high school, I would like to ask the seniors and sisters, who is that person? Who is then who? Sixth floor, neither of them can talk about it, and the post will be deleted when they say it. 12th floor, really? They were so ugly before, and if they get together again, who wouldn't be slapped in the face? And whose younger sister knows, she has nothing to say. 13th floor, half a class is only 20 minutes, wow, isn't it, who is so fast? 14th floor, you are not allowed to insult my male god. Use your brain to know that it must be a temporary mark. Besides, which a time is so short. It's not B&O, funny. 15th floor, hey, the 13th floor is just a clever thing. On the 14th floor, why do you map others? B&O have eaten your rice? Where do you come from if B&O? Put down the bowl and scold your mother, you are talking about people like you, don't engage in worship before your brain is fully developed. Shame. Early the next morning, Jia got up at 6 o'clock on time. He touched his neck, the swelling had disappeared, and it wouldn't hurt if he didn't touch it. Then he lowered his head and glanced down. Xiao Universe was shrinking beside him with his eyes closed, still slumbering, not knowing what he had dreamed of. The corners of his mouth cocked, and his smile was sweet. Jiyu's mood is getting better and better. With this smile at the beginning, he thinks today must be a very good day. Thinking about this, he went to school on Xia Yuxing's bicycle just like the previous 2 days. Before entering the class, Jiyu was in a good mood, until he met He Jiao, who was obviously angry at the corner of the stairs, staring at the phone. His heart jumped, and he felt a little bad. He lowered his eyes, trying to pass the stairs silently. Jiyu. Oh, humiliation! Sure enough, it's not so good. Jiyu stopped and looked at He Jiao. What's the matter? With a cold face, He Jiao raised her chin proudly at him. You come with me, I have something to ask you. What's up? You just come here, don't talk nonsense. She dropped a sentence and walked upstairs first. The girl has a real temper. Jiyu sighed silently and followed. He Jiao took Jiyu into an empty classroom. Before he could stand firm, she said aggressively, why are you going to pester my brother again? I have said to you so clearly that you don't have any points in your heart. Jiyu was stunned by the accusation. It's weird, why does anyone know that he met He Zhou? Is He Zhou so famous in this school? Say something. Jiyu, I didn't pester your brother. You lied. He Jiao said angrily, I don't care what you think in your heart, anyway, I tell you, you can never enter the door of our he's house. You are not worthy, you know. The good mood was completely defeated, even if it is normal for this girl to hate herself, but being so stunned by her, Ji still feels very upset in her heart. I didn't lie, and what am I going to do with your brother? I really want to enter. Can I chase you at your house? We are in the same class, near the water platform. Should I go to Hezhou? He Jiao was surprised, you dare to hit my idea. Ji was stunned, no, let me give you an example. He Jiao sneered, don't make excuses, your true thoughts are exposed. Ji Fui, I'm really just giving an example, just to refute you, that's all. I am not such a beast yet. You are not a beast who is. The fluttering sentence stunned Ji. He lowered his eyes, his face difficult to look. He couldn't refute this. Thinking about what the original owner did, Ji wanted to sigh. He obviously didn't do it, but he asked him to take the blame, but he still couldn't explain it. It was really hard to say. When she raised her eyes again, He Jiao still put her hands around her chest, looking at him with high eyes, with naked contempt. Nothing to say. Ji was silent for a moment, and said, why don't you do this? I swear to you that I will never get close to your surname in the future. Except for the activities in the class, I will avoid all the places where you are. We will not be offended. He Shui. If you don't believe me, I will write you a note and sign your name. Is this the head office? He Jiao curled her lips, what's the use of swearing? You don't just say you regret it, you have no credibility at all. Then what do you want? Ji said coldly, looking at He Jiao blankly. If you drop out of school and leave Longcheng No. 1 middle school, I will believe in you. Ji said nothing. He silently looked at the girl in front of him. She was very beautiful, she was the kind of bright and temperamental good-looking, although she was thin, she was full of air, and the momentum was compelling. At a glance, she knew who was the pampered eldest lady. This is the girl the original owner likes. I'm sorry. Ji licked his back molar and suddenly smiled. Hey? Have you thought about it? I promise, I will stay away from you and your brother in the future, but Ji pointed to the ground and said blankly, I'm right here, not going anywhere. After that, he turned around and didn't look back. He opened the door of the classroom and strode out. He is Ji, not the original owner. He didn't apologize to anyone, he didn't want to go through it, and he would never do it for the original owner. In short, don't bother each other, you can, command him proudly, no. He Jiao stomped her feet with anger as she watched Ji's departure. At this moment, her mobile phone rang, and He Jiao picked it up and glanced at it, and immediately picked it up. Her aggressive voice was so soft that it sounded extremely wronged. Brother, why are you answering the phone now? The human on the other end said, what's the matter? I'm almost killed by Ji's anger, do you know? Now he not only misses you, but also strikes up my ideas. The author has something to say, on the extensiveness of Chinese He Jiao's perspective, do you still dare to hit my idea? Except for my brother, you still want to make my mind. Ji's perspective, do you dare to hit my idea? You still want to make another idea? Beasts. This article is updated daily, and updates are dropped every day at midnight. There are 50 red envelopes dropped in this chapter. I am happy to see many new readers. 3 Thank you. 02, Think as you wish, 357895883, Listen to it, Dream of the River and Moon, Light and Warm Day, Good Time, AL No Return, 3395913, Yuxing, Witty Thunder of the Car. Thank you very much. He Jiao stepped on the bell to enter the classroom. As soon as she entered the door, she glanced in the direction of Ji and found that he was lowering his head like a okay person, and there was no place to throw his simmering eyes, so she had to endure her anger and return to her seat. As soon as she sat down, the same table touched her with her elbow, and asked in a low voice, "Hey, Jiao Jiao, what's the situation with your brother?" He Jiao was angry, and said in a bad tone, "What does it have to do with you?" The same table bumped into a wall, and he said, "Just forget it." He Jiao pursed her lips, very upset. She told her brother that Jiu had other ideas for herself, but she didn't expect that her brother would not believe her at all because the two omegas might love each other, but they can't keep each other. Both of them have estrus, and they will instinctively treat alpha or beta. It's easy to fall apart when there is desire and love. Besides, Jiu did not wash off the mark. Under such circumstances, he would not fall in love with other people, so the brother said that Jiu was lying to her. Not only that, but her elder brother also made her calm down. Don't find fault with Jiu, just stay strange with Jiu. But they meet every day, how can she be calm? Moreover, Jiu relied on the 100% pheromone match to seduce her brother again, and how could she calm down? Once she was so happy that her brother had a partner, and she was so happy that she actively asked Jiu to come to her class, saying that she covered him and took him with all good things, so now she hates Jiu so much that she even hates him. It's good to die. After that series of things happened, he has become a thorn in her eye and a thorn in her flesh. Just seeing him makes her very uncomfortable. Since you hate him so much, why don't you let him change classes? Someone who knew about the forum said after class. That's not what he wanted. He Jiao frowned and cleaned up the desk angrily, unless he quits, he doesn't want to change classes. I have to stare at him and not give him any chance to contact my brother. He is really a chicken thief, go on. I can run into my brother in every swimming class, it's so irritating. The corner of the classroom. Jiu lowered his eyes and brushed the question without any distractions. The content of the college entrance examination in this world is the same as that of his previous world, and the textbooks are also the same. Even Longchen's college entrance examination system is exactly the same as in his original city. The 3+2 system is implemented. Compulsory courses other than mathematics are required. The other two elective courses can be selected by yourself. The original main courses are physics and chemistry, which are the same as those of Jiu. The similarities in so many details gave him a sense of familiarity and belonging, and at the same time confirmed that this might really be a parallel world. Because so far, he found that except for the name of the city, everything else is the same as his original world, as if he was still in the original place, just changed his identity. Boom! Suddenly someone hit the table next to Jiu. Jiu looked at the crooked lines on the draft paper blankly, and slowly raised his head to look at the boy who hit his desk. The boy who didn't remember the name of Jiu arched his desk with a smile. Jiu, are you doing the questions? Can you do these questions? Then he said, I still read books after class is over. You work so hard. It looks like you are going to be the first in the quiz next week? Hey? Obviously I'm holding my golden thigh again, and I don't want to keep working hard. Time to do the problem here. Jiu put down his pen, his thoughts were interrupted, and the fire swelled up. Do I have any enemies with you? No, I don't care about you. Jiu nodded, if you care, just care. There is no need to arch my desk like a pig arching cabbage, or do you have any special feelings for the desk? You. The boy stared and stopped laughing. He was ashamed and angry when he saw the gloating gazes of the people around him, and pushed Jiu's desk harder. What happened when I pushed your desk? Before Jiu could speak back, he heard a patter and something fell on the ground. Jiu lowered his head and glanced at his mobile phone. He quickly picked it up, the screen did not break, and the phone could be turned on, but as soon as he turned it on, it showed more than a dozen missed calls from Yuseo. He couldn't care about the sour and sour front table immediately, and immediately got up and walked out, and at the same time dialed back. Hey, what's the matter? My phone is muted and I didn't hear it. Yuseo said, suddenly I had a fever at 8 o'clock in the small universe. I refused to drink milk or sleep. I kept crying. I called you, but you didn't answer. I took him to the hospital on my own terms. Already home. Ji said nervously, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? The doctor said that little universe was suffering from pheromone hunger. Ji was confused, he said, I'll be back soon. After speaking, Ji rushed to the office and asked for leave from the head teacher. When he returned to the classroom after applying for leave, he found his desk was down, books and pens were scattered all over the place, and there was a footprint on the half of the test paper. And his front desk looked out the window with a look of irrelevant appearance. Ji took a deep breath, packed his things under the fire, then walked to the front table and stood still, staring at him silently. The front desk was so frizzy, why are you looking at me? Ji smiled at him, then suddenly kicked his desk over. Amidst the screams at the front desk, Ji ran out of the classroom without looking back. He hurried back home in a hurry. Ji rushed towards the baby room without even breathing. In the baby's room, Yuseo held something like an oxygen cylinder in her left hand, and her right hand pressed the transparent oxygen mask on the face of the universe, as if she was inhaling oxygen to the universe. Xiaoyusha shrank in Yuseo's arms, not noisy or noisy, but his eyes were red with tears. After seeing Ji, he reached out to him pitifully and yelled vaguely. What? Ji was anxious to check the situation of little universe, so he didn't hear what he said, and said to him, Dad is here, good, it's okay, good. I asked Yuseo again, what are you smoking for him? It's a medical pheromone, prescribed by the doctor, which can make the universe feel better. Ji frowned. He hadn't heard of such a thing before, so he said, where is his medical record? Let me take a look. Then, although the world was different, the doctor's words were the same scribbled, and Ji couldn't understand it at all. He closed the medical record book and picked up another bottle of brand new medical pheromones. He could not understand the ingredients of the medicine, but understood the purpose mainly to comfort children suffering from pheromone hunger. What is pheromone hunger? Ji asked Yuseo, what exactly did the doctor say? He took out his mobile phone and found pheromone hunger. Combined with the description of Yuseo and Baidu Encyclopedia on the internet, Ji knew that the disease was similar to skin hunger and thirst. Like skin hunger, pheromone hunger is also caused by the lack of parental company. The difference is that children with this disease do not need parental touch, they need parental pheromone. Pheromone is also called pheromone, which is secreted by the individual into the body and can be sensed by the human sense of smell. This kind of thing exists in all animals, and the most widely known name is pheromone. For example, it's like some children must cover their mother's clothes to fall asleep. Yuseo said, because clothes with a mother's smell can give them a sense of security. Ji raised his eyebrows and looked at a bunch of unfamiliar professional vocabulary on the phone, and said, so the little universe is insecure? Can I cover him with my clothes? Yuseo shook her head. She looked at Ji and said very tactfully, what he lacks is your partner. It is the pheromone of his other close relative. The doctor diagnosed that the small universe lacked this pheromone for a long time. I got used to it, but recently I was suddenly stimulated by this pheromone, which led to this illness. Ji looked down and thought for a while, as if thinking of something. He raised his head and looked at Yuseo, blinked, and said, I was swimming in a swimming pool with Xiao Universe's mother yesterday. Could this be the reason? Yuseo. Believe you a ghost? There must be something intimate in the swimming pool that leaves such a strong flavor, otherwise, how could it stimulate the small universe at once? But she can't say it straight, because the situation in this patron's home is visually complicated. She nodded softly, maybe it is. Ji looked down and thought for a while, and felt that it was really the case. Yesterday, he and He Jiao swam in a pool. After returning to the small universe in the evening, they changed from the peaceful and quiet appearance of the past and became extremely sticky to him. They kept holding him and refused to let them go. Ji suddenly felt bright, but the solution made him difficult again. Not to mention that he just swore to He to stay away from her. Even if he was willing to slap her face for the sake of the small universe, she would definitely not be willing to help. Small universe. She shouldn't want to see this, a child that is a taint to her. Ji is a little worried. What should he do? The swimming class is only once every 2 weeks, and he can't get in touch with He at other times. But this is her own child after all, should it be okay to ask for some clothes she wears? Woo woo. Small Island Universe has not come to see the season hold him, waved wronged. Looking at the oxygen mask that was about the size of the little guy's face, Ji felt very distressed. He walked over and squatted beside Xiao Universe, reached out his hand and touched his little head and said, "You behave, Dad, come to find a way, you will be well soon, and soon you will not feel uncomfortable, be good." Hey! Little Universe caught Jiu's clothes. Jiu squeezed his little meaty hand, and asked Yuseo, "I only need to get a few pieces of his mother's clothes, right?" Yuseo nodded, it's best to let his mother come to hug him and accompany him often. She tried to figure out the face of the client, and said again, "But if you have clothes, it is better than medical pheromones. At least it can make the universe more comfortable during this period. Maybe the stress reaction will disappear, and his illness will also disappear." All right. With these words from Yuseo, how could Jiu have to give it a try? He didn't want to delay either, hugged Xiao Universe and hurried back to school. He doesn't have He Jiao's mobile phone number, and it is not easy to find He Jiao in full view, because this matter cannot be said in a place where there are other people, but can only be communicated in private. In this way, Jiu looked at the small note in his hand, and wrote, "Look at this, brother." Jiu gave it to me. "He Jiao, I said he had ideas for me. If you still don't believe me, he asked me to go to the small forest. Now you believe me?" He Jiao, but why did he mention that kid? What does it have to do with me? He Jiao, I see. Don't go, I will take care of it. The author has something to say. He Jiao, I heard raindrops falling on the green grass. Pheromone hunger, the author YY, is really wow. The explanation of pheromone comes from Du Niang. There are still 50 red envelopes in the comment area of this chapter. The readers are so enthusiastic, but lovely. 3. Thank you Mao Cheng Cheng 2 Fi Fei, Mang Jianjiu X2, 3395913, Mao Cha Cha, a repeater, and Shui Yang's residual fan of the mine. Thank you Lu Haoran for the rocket launcher. Tweeted. Give you a comparison. Brother, what are you looking at? Packed up and went to the laboratory. The shoulder was patted. He Jiao responded quickly and turned off the phone, put it in his pocket, picked up the book and stood up. Well, let's go. Fei Chu said, are you watching the school forum? No. What happened to the school forum? Just know you didn't watch it. Talk about it. He Jiao put one hand in his trouser pocket, his eyes drooping slightly, looking a little cold. He is wearing sportswear today. The loose design makes his temperament much more gentle. It is not as serious and cold as usual, but his height alone is extremely oppressive, plus that expressionless face. No matter what you wear, it is still full of distance. Except for Fei Chu, my buddy who has been playing well, no one dared to talk in his ears. Hey, brother, did you just listen to me? Because of the short time for get out of class, Fei Chu finished a car of rambling words without stopping, but turned his head to see that the person listening to the lecture had a calm face, and his eyes were empty, and he knew that he hadn't listened at all. He Jiao nodded in response, well, I listened. By the way, have you ever heard that Omega, who has been thoroughly marked, will be tempted to mark people other than him? Fei Chu rolled his eyes, brother, Can you be more perfunctory? Never heard of it, he said. He-Jo frowned and pondered for a moment, then suppose that Omega, who has been completely marked, has amnesia. I don't know that he has been marked, and he does not recognize his alpha. In this case, might he have feelings for other people? Fei Qiu was a little confused. Why are you asking this? Haven't we learned this long ago? You tell me to listen. As mentioned in the first book of junior high school biology, the omega that is thoroughly marked is not just the body, it can be said that even the brain and soul have recognized the alpha that marked him. Unless the mark is removed by surgery, it is absolutely impossible to treat others. Be tempted. Isn't this common sense? He-Jo Ching-ah and said thoughtfully, really? What's happenin'? He-Jo reduced his expression and said in a light tone, it's nothing. After throwing the note to He-Jiao, Ji-Yu returned to his seat. He secretly observed her behavior, confirmed that she opened the note and saw the words on it. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked forward to her being able to go to the Grove to make an appointment after school. Will she go? Ji-Yu didn't know. If she doesn't go, what should he do? Ji-Yu didn't know either. With things in mind, the next few lessons will be particularly difficult. Almost as soon as the school bell rang, Ji-Yu looked at He-Jiao, and saw that she stood up and was slowly packing things up. When someone came to talk to her, she started to talk and laugh. While laughing, she glanced at Ji-Yu seemingly inadvertently. Ji-Yu's heart jumped, feeling that he had understood something, and began to tidy up things quickly. After finishing packing, he glanced at He-Jiao again, which happened to meet He-Jiao's looking back. She raised her eyebrows at him. Ji-Yu blinked, nodded heart-consciously, and then walked to the small woods behind the canteen with her school bag on her back. He also made a special detour, avoiding the large group of troops after school, took the trail and turned into the grove, and then the cat looked in the direction of the teaching building behind a slightly thick tree, waiting for He-Jiao appeared. But he waited left and right, waited till the sky was dark and didn't wait for He-Jiao. Does she regret it? Ji-Yu frowned and wandered about. There were too many mosquitoes in summer, especially in the woods, but for more than an hour, mosquitoes stung a dozen pecks on his exposed arms and legs, which made it annoying. He glanced at the time again. It was 7 o'clock in the evening, and an hour and a half had passed since school. If she doesn't come by 8 o'clock, she won't come. Ji-Yu wrapped his arms around his chest, forcibly suppressing the anxiety and boredom in his heart, kicking his feet on the ground constantly, kicking a piece of green grass bald. In the 3 teaching buildings, most of the classrooms are lit up, and they are filled with students who voluntarily leave for self-study at night. The lights of their 3rd class were also on. I don't know if He-Jiao is there, or if she deliberately asked him to come and wait first, and then she dragged her back to the last moment. The woods were silent and empty, as if far away from the fireworks on Earth. The phone ringing suddenly rang. Ji-Yu took a look and found that it was Xia Yuxing's call. Oops, he forgot to tell Xia Yuxing not to wait for him. Ji-Yu quickly picked up. Hey, what are you? Where are you now? I called you almost 800 calls, why don't you answer any of them? I thought you went to your house to see if you left first, but you didn't go back. I thought you had an accident. It's up to you to tell the dam. Where are you now? Ji-Yu has become accustomed to Xia Yuxing's way of talking suddenly when he is in a hurry. He waited until Xia Yuxing finished speaking. I have something to do today, and I forgot to tell you. I didn't receive your call either. I just called this one. You fart. I hit at least 80. Ji-Yu. He took the phone to his eyes and looked at it, and said to the other end of the phone, really not. I remember, maybe my phone fell in the afternoon. It broke. After speaking, he heard a deep breath that was obviously suppressing anger on the other end of the phone. Ji-Yu licked his lips and was about to apologize, but heard Xia Yuxing's very calm voice from the opposite side. All right, let you go. Where are you now? Ji-Yu, Um, I have something wrong. What's the matter? Can't you tell me? Ji Yu thought for a while. Xia Yuxing should be the person who knows the situation of the original owner best. He not only knows the existence of the small universe, but also knows what happened between the original owner and the He family. He can know so much because the original owner trusts him. After he walked through, Xia Yuxing had been helping him, so it should be okay to tell him. Ji Yu said, the little universe has a pheromone hunger. Pheromone hunger? Yes, he needs his mother's pheromone very much now, so I want to get 2 of He Jiao's clothes and cover him. I have an appointment with He Jiao and I am waiting for her now. Wait, mother's pheromone? What is the relationship between mother's pheromone and He Jiao? Ji Yu thought that Xia Yuxing didn't understand the meaning of pheromone, and explained, pheromone is a pheromone, which can be sensed by smell and can be understood as smell. Now the small universe needs mother's smell, so I want to ask He Jiao for 2 clothes. There was silence on the phone for a long time. Ji Yu wondered, don't you understand? Well, I didn't understand. Why don't you understand? He Jiao is not Xiaoyushi's mother, what use is it for you to find her? Ji Yu was stunned, his brain buzzed, breathing and heartbeat stopped for a moment, the hand hanging beside him suddenly clenched, and the 2 words popped out of the blank brain, it's over. The atmosphere fell into a dead silence. In this dead silence, Ji Yu heard a chuckle. His hairs were erected and he immediately turned his head to look around, but he did not see anyone in a circle, but saw a cat rushing into the grass. Ji Yu exhaled, and then withdrew his sight, his Adam's apple rolled up and down. He was thinking now, if he replied who is his mother, would Xia Yuxing rush over to blast him? Speak! Xia Yuxing urged over there. Ji Yu licked his lower lip and said, yes, the doctor said that Xiao universe lacks the pheromone of one of its parents. Then I came to see He Jiao. Ji Yu knew that he couldn't return to heaven, so he definitely couldn't go back. After he said, holding on to his forehead, he broke the jar and said, is it too late for me to say that I have amnesia? The other side was quiet for a while. When did you lose your memory? Ji Yu's eyes widened, fucking? There is a show. This Xia Yuxing is really sweet. His mind turned quickly, just the day before yesterday. The day before yesterday I woke up and found that I didn't remember anything, but I didn't want you to know, because I was afraid that you were worried, so I had to pretend to be like a okay person. I can see it. Xia Yuxing, do you think my mind was caught by the door? Ji Yu slid on the ground leaning on the tree and completely gave up the struggle. He sighed for a long time, he was nervous about being seen through, and he was also happy that he could finally tell the secret. He said, then what can I do? I don't know why I wore it on your friend as soon as I woke up. I was also very confused. What's even more awkward is that, obviously he played well, why did he suddenly show his stuff? How could Little Universe's mother not He Jiao? Where did Ji Yu go? Ji Yu looked down, your friend swallowed half a bottle of sleeping pills when I came here. It might be. I went, so I came. The other end of the phone calmed down again, and there was no answer for a long time. The long silence left my heart empty, and Ji Yu couldn't help asking, didn't you tell me that He Jiao is the mother of the little universe? Why isn't it anymore? When did I say that? Feeling the tone of the other party suddenly cooling down after he knew that he was not the original owner, Ji Yu was a little helpless. That's what you said that I've twisted the melon and ruined the marriage contract, so I don't want to provoke the He family. Let me bear with He Jiao, saying that it was all my fault. It's normal for her to make things difficult for me. Aren't these all what you said? But what can I tell you to say? He Jiao is the mother of the little universe. Ji Yu was stunned, and said, aren't these words telling me that He Jiao is the mother of the little universe? Why else are you telling me not to provoke He Jiao, and want me to endure He Jiao? Why don't you let me tolerate others? Little universe's mother is you. There was thunder on the ground, and Ji was stunned. What? I told you not to provoke Hezhou. I told you to put up with Hejiao because you two are in the same class. She has a good relationship with his brother, and you force Hezhou, so she is very I can't understand you and will bully you, and you are not her opponent. No. Ji blinked slowly. You say the first sentence again. Who is the mother of the universe? It's you. It's your body, the kind that comes out of your belly. All of a sudden, there seemed to be thunder in his mind, which smashed Jiu's entire mind. He lowered his head to look at his stomach, and after looking at it for a while, he recovered. After he recovered, he felt more depressed, so depressed that he wanted to smoke. He hasn't learned to smoke yet, but he just wants to something, and then exhale it all in one breath. He feels that he should feel a lot more comfortable in his chest like that. How do men have children? There is no configuration for giving birth. How can it be born? After a long silence, Ji took the phone to his eyes and looked at the time on the screen again. September 13, 2019. Then, he searched for Huaguo in the browser. The history inside is completely consistent with what he has learned. There are Qin Emperor and Han Wu, Tang Zong and Song Xiu, 8 Kingdoms XX, and openness. He still remembered that he went shopping on the first day he walked through. I went to Wonk's department store, and I bought a McLaren cone. The computer I bought was from an outsider, and the dishwasher I bought was from the United States, etc., etc., popular things, well-known brands, it's all the same as in the memory. He also remembered that the time he passed through was June 4, 2019, and the college entrance examination was due in 2 days. And now it is September 13, 2019, and there is only 3 months left in the middle. He thought this was a parallel world. He thought that in addition to the name of the city, this world was 3 months faster than the original world. Ji was silent for a long time, then put the phone back to his ear. Are you still there? Okay. Ji heard the sound of the lighter, and the other party seemed to be smoking. He asked, you men can give birth to children? Is medicine so mature? Giving birth has nothing to do with whether it is a man or a woman. What does that have to do with? You really don't know? Where did you come from? Ji closed his eyes, his voice tired. You can answer my question. There was a pause on the phone and said, it's related to attributes. Except alpha can't be born, omega and beta can be born. The body you wear is omega. How to write? Just those 3 Greek letters. Okay. Ji squeezed his mobile phone and looked up at the 3 teaching buildings in the distance. Now the things on the wall are not very clear, but he remembers clearly that the sides of the 3 buildings are painted with symbols, namely alpha, beta, omega, and the place where he is attending classes at the place marked with omega. In the building. He always thought that the letter was the same as 123, just to distinguish the floors. It turned out to be used to distinguish crowds. Ji leaned back against the tree, feeling like a fool. His throat moved, and said, then, the father of the small universe. The voice paused, and Jiu's Yuguang glanced at a touch of white. He turned his head slightly, and then moved his gaze upwards. The appearance of the other party was completely greeted. I saw Hezhou standing beside a tree with his hands in his pockets and standing casually. He looked at himself with a smile on the corners of his mouth. Xia Yuxing's voice sounded at this time, it's Hezhou. The author has something to say, Jiu, next, I want to show you the scene of domestic violence. Hezhou covered Jiu's mouth, no, you don't want to. This chapter still has 50 red envelopes. Thank you for the light and warm days, good time, delay, listen to X2, a repeater, and a desert mine. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your nutrient solution. 3. Jiu was startled, his eyes fixed on Hezhou. There was some confusion in his mind, and it took a long time to recover, rubbing his forehead and slowly stood up. On the phone, Xia Yuxing kept asking him why he was not talking. Ji Yu blinked and replied, I have something wrong now. I will call you later and hang up first. Wait. Where are you now? School, I will go back soon. After that, Ji Yu hung up the phone and put the phone back in his pocket, then reduced his expression and looked at He Zhou lightly, why are you here? He Zhou took out a note from his pocket and shook it against Ji Yu. Ji Yu glanced and sneered, I know. When did you come? How many did you hear? He Zhou walked out of the shadow of the bushes, with an open expression, all. Ji Yu pursed his lips. He felt that he should say something and do something, but he didn't know how to say and how to do it. His mind was filled with huge and explosive information, and there was no extra brain to think about other things for a while. Even if you think about it, it doesn't make much sense. He couldn't beat the person in front of him and couldn't move. If he wanted to tell his own affairs, then he would be useless. After the secret was said, he felt relaxed, relieved, and loved whoever he loved, even if He Zhou knew it. He doesn't care much. After a long silence, Ji Yu spoke, oh. The corners of He Zhou's lips paused, that's it? Don't plan to say something. Then what do you want to hear? Ji Yuxin was very tired and didn't want to care too much. He stomped his feet, squatted down after driving away the mosquitoes, pulled up a loose t-shirt to cover his legs, and searched for Xia Yuxing and told him those few words. He is very familiar with the three letters of alpha, beta, and omega. They are widely used in mathematics and physics, but it is the first time he has heard of them when they are used in gender attributes. He Zhou came over, what are you looking at? Ji Yu had those three letters in his mind, and he couldn't separate the energy to greet He Zhou. He simply stretched out a hand, with his palm facing He Zhou, doing a stop gesture, I'll tell you later. He Zhou laughed, okay, I'm waiting for you. With his hands in his pockets, he nodded and looked down at the squatting Ji Yu. The appearance of this Ji Yu in front of him is still the impression, it looks soft and weak, vulnerable, but his actions are bold and lively, his expression is arrogant when he kicks over other people's desks, it is very interesting. Ji Yu suddenly raised his head and said, are you Alpha? He Zhou nodded, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Ji Yu, wait, I'm still watching. Row. After speaking, He Zhou turned and walked towards the school bag placed on the rock, took something from it, and when he returned to the side of Ji Yu, he raised the thing in his hand and sprayed it around. Ji Yu immediately smelled the scent of flowers that flushed his nose, and he raised his eyebrows, insecticide. He Zhou glanced at the bottle, floral-scented mosquito spray. Ji Yu gave He Zhou a weird look, it's really fragrant, it's really powder. He Zhou shook the bottle, my sister gave it to me, I think it's okay to smell it. Ji Yu ignored him, lowered his head and continued to read the encyclopedia. The more he watched, the more silent he became, and the more he watched, the more autistic he became. To him, these narratives are super invincible and magical. They are a true portrayal of the retrogression of human society, but they are the basic setting of this world. In this world, Alpha is the strongest, both in terms of physical fitness and IQ and ability. Both men and women have male genitalia and are extremely capable. They can cause people to become pregnant, but they will not become pregnant. They are born leaders. Beta is the most common, appearance, IQ, and physical fitness are all moderate. Both men and women have two sets of reproductive systems, which can make people conceive or conceive by themselves. However, the reproductive ability is average, and a beta can only give birth to one child. They are the most numerous, equivalent to the worker bees in the colony. On the other hand, Omega is the weakest, with outstanding appearance but poor physical fitness. Compared with A and B, it is weaker than A and B, and can't do physical work at all. Both men and women have genital cavities, and there are frequent estrus periods. During the estrus, the genital cavities will open. It can be said that you will get pregnant after you have sex. Simply put, it is a giant. Moreover, they can combine with alpha to produce alpha with a high probability, so although omega is low in status, it is standard for alpha. Gu kept taking deep breaths, feeling that the worldview had collapsed completely. Especially when I saw the sentence, the male genitalia of omega males are generally short and have no function to make people pregnant, my eyes were darkened, and I felt that suicide in place was a little happier than staying in this world. This inexplicable crossing is actually trying to humiliate him, right? Everything else remained largely unchanged, so the gender became 6, and it didn't matter if he became 6. It just happened that he became a male omega. Didn't he play with what he was on purpose? Originally, Gigi's sudden decrease in size was enough to shock him. What is the difference between this situation and Gigi who confiscated him? What? What's the difference? Dressing directly as a girl is 100 times better than the current situation. After reading the general content, Gu took a deep breath and felt that he was not far from where he died. But before he died, he still had an account to understand with someone. Gu breathed deeply for several times, trying to maintain a calm face, and said, "You completely marked my body, right?" He-Jo frowned when he heard the words, and made a perfunctory from his nose. Gu asked again, "It is said that alpha can easily affect the omega completely marked by him, whether it is body, mind, or soul, right?" This is already a euphemistic description, and it is more terrifying on the encyclopedia. A completely marked omega is tantamount to becoming a vassal of the alpha that marked him, but any character that alpha is close to is a disaster for omega. There is still a disaster that cannot be resisted, and there are not a few omegas who have died for it. He-Jo, almost. Gu nodded and took a breath again. He chilled his face, the fire in his heart was burning, but his tone was extremely calm. "You did it for me in the cafeteria, and you did it when I suddenly fainted in the bathroom, didn't you?" As he said, he slowly stood up and approached He-Jo step by step. "You told me that the injury on my neck was caused by myself? At that time, you knew I was not the original Gu, right? You know. Knowing that I have changed people but still hiding from me, is it fun to play with me? This time you came here for your sister and wanted to see me joke, right? If it wasn't for my friend suddenly reminded me, what do you want to do to me tonight? Let me fall again." When he finished speaking, Gu gritted his teeth, and his voice almost squeezed out between his teeth. He stopped, his bright black eyes staring at He-Jo angrily. At this time, the distance between him and He-Jo was no more than a minute. Gu is 1.78 meters tall, while He-Jo is 1.92 meters. The two looked up and the other looked down. They were so close that they could feel each other's breathing. In this tense atmosphere like piano strings, a subtle atmosphere gradually emerged between them. The fire in Gu's heart became more vigorous. But He-Jo wanted to conquer. He wanted to conquer the Gu in front of him. Because those eyes that were awkward, as if on fire, made him throb inexplicably, and then he had a strong impulse. He wanted the person in front of him to completely surrender himself, look up at himself, kneel in front of him obediently, lower his head to reveal the fragile hind neck gland. Then begged him to bite his glands, begged to be marked. This may be the instinct of all male alpha when facing their omega. But it may also be just his own hobby of He-Jo. He-Jo's eyes darkened and his eyes narrowed slightly. Gu's fingers hanging beside him moved, keenly feeling the familiar feeling of restlessness in his body. He immediately gritted his teeth, raised his fist without thinking, and smashed it into He-Jo's face. "It's up to you. Come again." Gu was furious. He-Jo didn't avoid or stop him, letting Gu's fist fall on his chin, letting his collar be tightened by Gu. These are not painful to him. After smashing his fist, Gu frowned and shook his hand. While enduring the pain, the anger in his heart became more intense. He took out all the tricks he learned, such as grappling, fighting, etc., and kept congratulating him. Zhou greeted him. He beat He Zhou madly and violently, but He Zhou's face was calm, and only occasionally stretched out his hand to block it twice. In the end, I don't even know if Ji Yu knocked He Zhou to the ground, or He Zhou released the water and lay down on the ground, letting Ji Yu press and hit it. The two huddled together on the ground, and the whole body was filled with smell. Ji Yu was panting, his heart beating wildly, the tails of his eyes flushed, his arms were getting sour and his fists were getting softer before the breath in his heart came out, and his fists were getting softer and he was about to beat him. Feeling immobile. But He Zhou didn't even breathe. He frowned until his neck was cold, then hot and painful. Why do you bite? He Zhou was surprised at first, and then amused. He raised his hand to pinch Ji Yu's neck and didn't dare to use too much force, because there were fragile omega glands there. Ji Yu didn't say a word, his mouth pressed harder, and he didn't let go even when he tasted the smell of blood. Make you crazy? Let you play me? Let you pretend when you fight? I killed you, a thick-skinned idiot. Enough. He Zhou said. He moved his hands down, grabbed Ji Yu's shoulder with one hand, and pinched his chin with the other, and said again, enough. With only a little effort, Ji Yu was held in his palm like a little milk cat. However, Ji Yu, who was under control, was uneasy, and deliberately bared his teeth at He Zhou. Look, your blood. He Zhou's chest vibrated, and he laughed softly, I bit you, and you bite me too. I made you foolish. You beat me too. Is that enough? Are you a primary school student? Fighting is something like you can even if you beat me and I beat you. After cursing, Ji Yu's expression suddenly froze. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, placed it in front of him, and looked at it, then turned his eyes to He Zhou. Is your blood poisonous? He accidentally swallowed it just now, and the smell of blood burst into his body like a fireball. The blood seemed to boil in an instant, and even the exhaled breath became hot. He Zhou raised his hand to wipe the blood stains on the corner of Ji Yu's mouth, rubbing his fingers and said, I haven't tasted it, I don't know. He raised his eyes again, his voice was low and magnetic, what's the smell? With eyes facing each other, Ji Yu's face was hot, and he felt that something was about to get out of control. He waved away He Zhou's control and wanted to stand up, but was grabbed by He Zhou effortlessly. With a light pull, he fell back to He Zhou again. This time he put his hands on the side of He Zhou's head and could no longer stand up. Because He Zhou, lying underneath him, looked inexplicably tempting. Every feature of his facial features seemed to be particularly attractive, attracting his sight and seduce his heart. The hands that were on the ground dig into the soil, and Ji Yu's eyes fell on the thin lips that were close at hand. The uncontrollable feeling of wanting to swallow again came. The author has something to say, He Zhou, little Crucian carp is really fun *. In this chapter, the height was repaired, because the reader laughed with a. I'm not going to hit the next chapter. Do something else. There are still 50 red envelopes in this chapter. The horses in Ji Yu are thin and brittle. If they fall, they fall. It's more exciting if they fall. It's okay, don't feel bad, ah thank you, a repeater x2, a repetition machine x2, a delay, a spring BAA x2, I love Fuxipai, Momo, Menjianjiu, listening, Zhen, Lynette, the flourishing of the prosperous world, changing one will definitely be able to see the minds of x2, 339599313. Thank you everyone for feeding Ran popsicles and sodas for your heart 3.